Vanakkam. Welcome back to our course on SAP Materials Management. Continuing specific purchasing procedures, in this session, we will discuss the subcontracting purchase. Before going into the session, let us review the answers for the previous session. What is interplant purchase? In any business environment, one organization may have multiple plants. In one plant, they produce a material which is an input material for another plant. In this case, they don't buy from outside, but they buy between their plants. For example, components produced in one plant may be required for the assembly in another plant, which requires a stock transfer of components. This is the interplant purchase. How many supply plant and receiving plants can be defined in special procurement type configuration? When we configure it, we can define only one supply plant and one receiving plant. If more than one plant is involved as either supply or receiving, how to configure the special procurement type? So in this case, we have to make a copy of special procurement type 40 and then make the required changes in the newly created special procurement type. All these things we discussed in the earlier session. If you want to know more details, please go and refer there. Where do you capture special procurement type in Metal Master? Special procurement type is defined in MRP2 view of Metal Master. While running MRP to consider the stock transport requirements, what must be selected? This is during MRP run, that is a MRP live. Here I refer MRP live. In MRP live, under the section also to be included in planning, there is one checkbox against stock transport materials that should be checked to consider stock transport requirements in MRP through this MRP live MT01N. Do you need to create purchasing info record for interplant purchase? No, it is not required. What is the movement type to move the metal from stock to stock in transit in the interplant purchase? The movement type is 351. As part of specific purchasing procedures, so far we discussed scheduling agreement and interplant purchases. In this session, we will discuss subcontracting purchasing. What is subcontracting purchase? Subcontracting is utilizing services of a supplier to perform specific operations on a component or to perform assembly of a product from the components supplied to them. The subcontracting process begins when the company hands over components to the subcontractor, who is usually a vendor, against a subcontracting purchase order, either to assemble or add value to the product. For example, there is a need to convert raw material to component A. The customer will supply raw material A to the supplier. He will add value. He will performing required operations to convert raw material A to components A, and he will return it to the customer. This is called subcontracting process. What we discuss is adding value. At the same time, if multiple components are given that need to be assembled and assembled finished product has to be given, that is also subcontracting process. Multiple inputs to get the product coming back. So this is the subcontracting process. Subcontracting process may be temporary or permanent in organizations based on various reasons. Some of the reasons are the company may not have a capacity or technology, or they may have some constraint in having the capacity or technology to perform specific operation. There may be over demand for specific product or operation. There may be machine breakdown to perform a specific operation, or there may be seasonality in demand which suddenly increase or decrease the demand. Like this, there may be many reasons for subcontracting. Now, we will discuss various steps involved in subcontracting purchase. The customer will raise subcontracting purchase order to convert raw materials to component. The raw material stock will be taken out from inventory of the customer and moved to the vendor's inventory with reference to the subcontracting purchase order. When the vendor has done the job, he raises invoice for the job done and send back the material. Customer receives the goods and he raises the invoice. Against the invoice, payment is done to the supplier. Let us discuss the master data required to perform subcontracting process. There is a need to convert raw material A to component A. To execute subcontracting process, the master data required are: first we have to create the material master for raw material A and component A. In this, component A should have procurement type F and a special procurement type 30 in MRP2 view. Bill of material has to be created for component A with the raw material A as child material. Production version must be created for component A with the link to bill of material. In S/4HANA, production version is mandatory to carry out subcontracting process. Subcontracting purchasing info record has to be created for component A. Source list for component A is an option. Here we see the details maintained in Material Master. Purchasing view is maintained. In MRP2 view, procurement type F and the special procurement type 30 are maintained. While creating purchasing info record, please note to select the option subcontracting under info category. Inside info record, update purchase organization data details including the price to carry out the agreed operations. Bill of materials to be created for component, that is the end product after processing. In this bill of material, input material has to be given as child material. Here we see that the component is the header material, raw material is the input material. Transaction code to create bill of material is CS01. For the header material, production version has to be created through C223. As discussed earlier, production version is mandatory in S/4HANA for subcontracting. There is a difference between production version for manufacturing items and the production version for subcontracting item. For manufacturing items, both BOM and routing should be linked to production version. In case of subcontracting, only BOM has to be linked. For subcontracting process, item category L has to be selected in all the documents like purchase requisitions, purchase orders if they are manually created. When proper master data is maintained, this item category will be selected by system when the purchase requisition is created through system through MRP run. Here we see the purchase requisition with item category L. Under material data tab, by clicking the components icon, we can see the input materials required to be sent and processed by the supplier to get the required material. This is captured based on the bill of material we maintained. Similarly, we see the item category L in the purchase order. Here also, under material tab, by clicking components icon, we can see the input materials required to be sent and processed by the supplier to get the required material. To get the list of purchase requisitions and purchase orders, we get the same reports like ME5A for purchase requisitions, ME2M or ME2L for purchase orders. Only thing is, if we put L in item category, system will bring the related purchase requisitions, purchase orders relevant to subcontracting. Through stock requirements list, we can see the subcontracting purchase order. This is the first step in subcontracting process. Then raw materials should be issued to the supplier. Here we see the raw material stock through stock requirement list, and in stock requirement list it is showing as the total quantity. In MMBE we see the stock as, because this is the organization based stock, right? It will show the stock based on company, plant, store location like this. Raw material will be issued to the supplier through the transaction MIGO MIGO or through MIGO underscore TR, which means transfer posting. Now let us use MIGO. Now we are in MIGO transaction. To issue the materials, we have to select A08 transfer posting. Please note A08 transfer posting, R01 purchase order, and then please note the movement type. It is the 541. 541 is the movement type to remove the material to the subcontracting stock, and then enter the purchase order number. Once you enter the purchase order number and let us see what's happened. Now system has fetched all the details related to the purchase order. Now here we see the stock to be moved from where, that is plant to store location, etc., to where, that is the O subcontracting stock. In addition to this, capture the documents accompanying the metal physically which is going in the fields shown here. Check all the details and save the document. Goods issue will be posted. After issuing the metal, we are seeing the stock here. So we are seeing the total stock in MD0425. At the same time, the total stock now it is split because we moved 10 numbers to the supplier. So here we see that in MMBE, 10 numbers as stock provided to supplier, 50 numbers in the store location. That's how we see the stock here. Through metal movement document MB51, we can see the stock removed from supplying plant and the store location through movement type 541. It is moved to the stock through movement type 541O. So please note down these reports what you are referring here. In the previous slide, we discussed about the stock requirement list, which is showing the total stock, what are the issues and receipts. We saw MMBE, which is organization based stock. So the users must be able to understand various reports like this, so that you will be able to take the reports which are required for you efficiently. That is very important. Similarly, the MB51 report, based on the date range, movement type, based on these things, if you take, you can get n number of things from the SAP directly. So you don't need to go for any customization or something. What details you need, those things you can take. Now supplier has converted raw materials into components. Next, we need to receive the components. To receive the components, the transaction is MIGO only. Here we capture A01 goods receipt, R01 purchase order, and which is the purchase order number here. Please note the movement type 101. Let us enter the purchase order number and proceed. So system captured all the details. Now let us receive 6 materials. The supplier has sent 6 pieces of the components after processing it. So let us check all the details and post it. Document is posted. We receive the materials, 6 pieces. Through MB51, we see the documents list again. Please note down the movement types. We discussed these things earlier. Only thing is, when we return the materials, the removal from the supplier is 543O, right? 541O was to put the stock into the supplier place. 543O is to remove the stock from the supplier, right? So please take note of these kind of movement types. This is very important. So here we see the raw material stock. 10 pieces of raw materials were supplied to supplier. They processed 6 pieces of these raw materials. So remaining 4 are showing here as the stock provided to vendor. And components we received 6 numbers. So the stock of component increased from 0 to 6 here. So with this, the cycle is completed. So in this session, we discussed subcontracting business scenario, master data required for subcontracting, order management for a subcontracting process, and how to issue the goods and how to receive the goods. So now let us go through the quiz for this session. What is subcontracting purchase? List few reasons for subcontracting. What are the details to be updated in Metal Master for subcontracting purchase? Is production version mandatory for subcontracting? What is the movement type to move the metal to the vendor? So these are the quiz questions. We will discuss the answers for these quizzes in the next session. The next session, we will discuss how to manage external operations. Meanwhile, please practice the subcontracting purchase process and give your feedback to improve flow and contents. Recommend your friends and colleagues to subscribe to our channel so that they also get the benefit of this knowledge sharing. Thank you. See you in the next session. Take care. Bye.